Yes.
Yeah, all right. Thanks. Thanks for joining me, Paul. No,
Oh, it's
you're
Bryan.
Bryan Paulhus,
Yes.
and we just
It's just,
literally talked about
not
this.
Paul Bryant. It's Bryan Paulhus. Yes.
Bryan Paulhus from Essiac Tea. What is your? It's you can. We'll just
Oh,
say
it's
the website right away.
Genuine Essiac.com.
Genuineessiac.com. So this is. I'm just gonna give a little like. I learned about this tea in 2014. I got a certification through Nutritional Therapy Association, and one of the instructors there had this whole big hand like write up on Essiac tea and how it was good for cancer. And I just filed it away in a file folder on my computer called cancer and never really looked at it because I share it with people when they tell me or ask me what they can do. Because I know a couple of people recently who've had cancer and I've sent them the information, but I just, let them decide what they're going to do. I don't know that anything about it. I don't have any skin in the game when it comes to this. So I'm really super curious to hear from you. Um, how, like, let's just start out. How did you get into this company or starting this company, Genuine Essiac?
It was totally by accident. It was, this is my 40th year. So I was 21 years old, 1986.
Wow.
Um, And my mother's boyfriend's mother went to the fish market that he went to all the time to drop off fish. He was a fisherman, and at that fish market, they said, "We're sorry to hear about your mother passing from pancreatic cancer, but we have something that's highly unusual, an herbal mixture here at the fish market. We wish we would have known about her cancer. We think it would have, potentially saved her." So that was the beginning of this existence of this herbal mixture at a fish market. Now, why did this fish market have this herbal mixture? Uh, Essentially, there was an original version of this herbal mixture that was brought to Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1959. And it was researched for 8 years to improve upon the original four herb mixture and create a much more effective eight herb mixture. And that was research that was headed by President Kennedy's personal physician, Dr. Charles Brusch,
Okay.
and who had a massive interest in medicinal herbs, and the original nurse who this is named after, Reen Case. Her name backwards is Essiac. Essentially, she had been driven, out of business, so to speak, when the Canadian government failed to approve Essiac as a means of treatment by 3 votes. So again, forced to come to our area, Cambridge. And so I'm trying to tie this to the fish market. Well, next to the fish market was the research lab where President Kennedy and Reen Case did all their work. So they became friends with the fish market people.
Hmm.
And this started in the primarily in the 1960s and extended forward to 1986. That's why they had it at the fish market, offering it kind of casually to people. So we knew a couple of people who had cancer at the time, and we casually mentioned, hey, you might want to go to the fish market. They've got this thing we've never heard of, but you might want to try it. Ran into both of these people about 8 months later, and they were both in complete remission, unbeknownst to us. They had taken it with no other treatment, and they were completely cancer free. So, what that did was obviously spur enthusiasm, not only from them to tell everyone, oh my God, this stuff works, but ourselves. So, we started telling everyone about this miraculous thing that our friends experienced. That started a whole network of people that would go over to this fish market in Salisbury, Massachusetts. And after a while, it became they became overrun to the degree that they said, hey, as much as we appreciate you telling people, it's getting to be too much to run a fish market business and answer all the questions. So we were asked to take over that. So we initially did this at the house, and it looked like a drug ring because we had Ziploc bags with 4 ounces, and we'd weigh them out, and people would come with these Ziploc bags, and they would come like a turnstile of people coming and going. And that became unmanageable because, as you can imagine, life got interrupted at a high degree. So we consolidated this into a once a month cancer support group using primarily Essiac tea, almost exclusively Essiac tea, and that grew in numbers. And inevitably, a couple of the people in that group had some association with a TV station, WMUR in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
They found out about this and they decided to do a story on a show that was called The Kathy Burnham Show. It was an existing talk show at the time. So they filled the panel. My mother was on it. The panel was on it with people as as you can imagine, old time New Englanders. The
Mm-hmm.
audience was filled with these people, and they just went with their microphones. It's like a Phil Donahue format. They asked and then went into the audience, and they just got countless simple stories. Well, did you have cancer? Yes, I did. Did you take chemo or radiation? No. Are you cancer free now? Yes, I am. And as simplistic as it was, I think that was the beauty, compelling aspect. It was a very defined choice they made to go with Essiac tea. Now, having seen this, we were excited to see Mom on TV. This was by now, it was July of 92. We had no idea of the impact that this would have, that 1,500 people would call the station the next day looking for this, and we were massively unprepared. So I had to get together with Dr. Brusch and the fish market guy, Arthur was his name, his friend, and collectively the three of us got together and we got all the equipment, the scales, and I was young enough to carry the heavy sacks to do mass production. So I was enlisted for a summer job in 1992 that I thought would just be kind of fun to do for a little while. And I'm here today still doing it. So it was just total happenstance that the demand of a TV show led to this. And later on, we did bring it online in late 2004. And it's just through its successes, we've done certain things here that aren't conventional, such as addressed everyone based on their financial need. We've had the suggestion of a price only. It's not that you have to pay. It's you let us know if you can't afford it. If you have no money, we take care of everyone. And that's per directive of Dr. Brusch, simply because he knows that it can't benefit people unless it gets to them. So part of the
Right.
equation into the structure is assisting people with financial needs. And he saw accessibility as the number one thing to address, and the worst thing would be denial of this to anyone. So we've done it like that for, ever since.
I really love that. The lady that I work with out of her clinic, she's a nutritionist too, doing muscle testing. She never did it for the money. She just did it to help people. So she's not super expensive. And I've
Mhm.
always tried to myself come at helping people and trying to be affordable, like, you know, getting some compensation for my background in education, but also not gouging people. Like I don't do programs, so I don't charge people $3,000 and $5,000 to work with me
Yeah,
because
it's ridiculous. I
yeah, it's
know
insane.
it is.
Um, yeah, and I always just tell people we'll decide together how much, or it's ultimately up to the client how much support they need. If they want to see me once a year, that's fine. If they want to see me every week, that's fine. I'll tell them if that they don't need that. So I love
Yeah.
that you say that you really try to just help people because I think that's sometimes, I mean, it is really important. It's
Well,
why we're here.
it's still very close to the initial price we had back in 1986. Like it's off by a few percentage points just based on shipping costs. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
still
amazing.
approximately $1 a day. If you get this in certain packages, it's under $1 a day. And that's a whole thing here. It's this very simple thing. You keep this inexpensive, you keep it $1 a day. It's virtually 95% of people can afford that. The other 5% will take care of.
Hmm.
Um, and it really is uh, something, if you were to keep this at $1 a day and not be lying about what it does, but it does what we say it does. The growth of this, because of the truth that it's working, is where you make your money. It's in the
Hmm.
quality, not in the price gouging. So we've been able to be successful as the byproduct of just an accumulation over years of referrals and successes that just keeps growing. You'd be surprised what success can do to get people enthusiastic to tell their friends about it. And
Right.
that's what's happened here. So It's not like we sacrificed, we've just taken a different route to success. And that is one in which the success, which breeds financial stability. And yet no one gets gouged. And people that don't have the money also get assisted because the more we make with the volume, the more we can afford to take care of people that don't have the
That don't
funds.
have the money. I love
So it just
that.
works out beautifully. And that was the directive again of Dr. Bruce. He's like, it sounds like a lousy game plan. I questioned it. He's like, but if you were to give this to someone and lie about what it does, you'd be left subjected to complete losses. You wouldn't have that seed of optimism grow into healing and that spreading. You'd have resentment. You'd have people talking poorly about you. You'd have loss of everything to create and ship that. He goes, but if you're telling the truth, you will have
Yeah.
no greater advocate than the person that you healed. So you can't lose.
Yeah.
The way he laid it out was, it's part of the younger brain that says, I hope it's true, and you to a certain degree are worried about your stability financially. What are we getting into? But I trusted him, you know, and we did it right for the word go, and it felt like the right thing to do. And he was correct. It was something that healed people. And the referrals we've got have been extraordinary over the years.
Can you talk more about the tea itself? Because you said it went from 4 herbs to 8, and I know there's this discrepancy. This is what I had talked about in email, the discrepancy between the Indian and the Turkish rhubarbs.
Well, there's no
And
discrepancy. There's there's a campaign, and just to put it,
okay.
when a company is struggling to differentiate, whether it's through lack of legitimacy or whatever it is, they tend to differentiate by creating something to set them apart. And that one thing years ago was the Indian rhubarb. It was a campaign by one group that was lagging in sales for whatever reason, and they decided to change in the midst of decades of usage, the Turkish rhubarb to Indian, it suggests
Mm,
that all the other companies had it wrong. Now, think about this, objectively. Why would 99.9% of companies have it wrong? And you over here, we've got it right all of a sudden.
only one
You
that
know
has
what
it
I'm saying?
right. Yeah.
What they're doing is preying on the new people, new exposure, and they're getting everyone to think, oh my God, this is the right one over here. They use fear mongering and differentiation to say it's
Yeah.
not this rhubarb. But if you apply any sort of logic, fear tends to skew logic. So if you apply any sort of logic, well, a couple of things. If why would the other 99.9% be using Turkish rhubarb? And if that were in fact right to use the Indian rhubarb, don't you think they'd be using it?
Hmm.
Why would they all knowingly choose the wrong formula? So this is a tactic used every now and then, differentiation to take a particular item, create a scare tactic, create a diversion that this is what you want instead, replace one item with another. It's always been Turkish rhubarb. It always will be, and you'll see an astounding predominance of Turkish rhubarb used because it's the correct one, and they all didn't get it wrong, and this company miraculously got it right. It stands to logic. They all got it right, and they made up something out of the blue.
Hmm.
So.
And so, can you, the tea itself, are you selling the already made up tea, or are you selling the herbs and somebody makes their own tea? And then I'm sure you have instructions on your website and things like that,
Oh
but
yeah.
I literally know nothing about this except
Yeah.
for that it's a tea that is supposed to help rid the body of cancer.
Well, what we're looking at is different aspects of how to make this as best as possible. Now, this was originally a Ojibwe Indian recipe, and they didn't, at the end of the process, see, they would use grinding stones in order to grind it and pulverize it to utilize the entire plant, ingest it in its entirety. As their culture, really everything in their culture was utilized. The skin, the tendons of an animal, the antlers. It's same with herbs. You didn't throw them away. You didn't get the colander out and strain it out. You utilized it by using a grinding stone, ingesting it in its entirety. Now, that hasn't been improved upon for many reasons. First and foremost is that your body cannot take those herbs in their dry form and really get in there and extract out the medicinal properties. You'd be surprised how inefficient that process is. So what has to happen is an extraction process, and that is the brewing of the tea. Boiling it initiates an extraction process that initiates a very strong draw. And for the next 12 hours, it continues to steep and draw out all of the medicinal properties. Now, if you were to take this and, for example, make it into a tea, but not include the minute fine particles, well, you'd be making a version which is what's been a commercial compromise of many companies. They've taken out the powdered herbs. And the reason they do that is it's a less pleasant experience to drink the powdered herbs because it's a little sludgy. You have to mix it like thick orange juice pulp. You have to mix it thoroughly. And some people prefer to have something clean drinking. But in doing so, in order to extract out herbs, you have to get them in chunks large enough to extract with a strainer. So you're getting what's called cut and sifted herbs. They're particles, not particles, they're stems. And the problem with that is you're not getting any increase in surface area unless you pulverize it. So the medicinal draw from these stems is so minimal because you can't get into the herb itself. So it has to be pulverized. So everything we have here is pulverized. The second part is they extract out the herbs. Well, these herbs are the source of the medicinal benefit. You extract them out, you extract out part of the medicinal benefit. Even after it's had a large amount of the medicinal properties, drawn out, there's still a significant amount left in the herb. It's not the majority, but it's got like an extra 20-25% of the medicinal potential. If you include that in there, now you're getting the maximum benefit of the medicinal potential. But here's the third aspect that's the most, important is that these herbs have essentially a dietary fiber which goes through your digestive tract in the absence of food. And each time is like a brushing through of a gentle detox. And essentially what this is doing is 3 times a day addressing any sort of accumulated waste in the intestines, which is a massive issue as far as, bacterial overgrowth and issues like that. There's a cascade. These things cascade into different issues. But if you have this dietary fiber, it takes the motility through the digestive tract, decreases the bacterial count, it decreases the buildup on the intestinal walls, which tends to, in very constipated people back up, ferment when the bacteria hits the digestive walls. It gets the trapped on waste and it goes into the bloodstream and creates havoc in the organs and skin everywhere else. So this digestive issue is so hugely benefited by this fiber and so greatly just skipped over when you extract out the fiber. But people think, hey, I'm going to sell more if I can just sell it on the merits of a good taste, clean drinking. You should get the ugliest Essiac there is. You should get the most beneficial in that ugliness. And we unapologetically sell the ugliest version. And if people are looking at legitimacy aspects, that in itself should tell you who's legitimate because no one in their right mind would sell the ugliest version and make up the ugliest version because that would reduce sales. It must have that because of the benefit. So yeah, why would anyone sell an ugly version that actually worked?
Yeah. So you're selling, if I was going to go to your website, I'm buying the herbs and I'm brewing it myself.
Yes, because the powdering aspect of it has to be done in order to start the brewing process, boil it yourself. Now it's perishable, which is just fine, like bread or fish. It's perishable within 3 weeks. You drink it well beforehand, by the way.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that
perishability
makes
is
sense.
non-existent. But what they did, another aspect of it was they wanted to make it retail ready, so they put it on store shelves. And in order to have it maintained on a store shelves for 6 months to a year, they would have to extract out the fresh herbs.
Yeah,
And that's
because I
why they use
imagine they would get
particles.
gross in there.
Yes. So in doing so, they took out the cleansing properties of the powdered herbs in order to extend shelf life. And this is, and by the way, this process is huge in the increase of cost because now you have a retailer You also have the extraction and bottling of this. It's just so much harder than just putting it. We have these food safe plastic bags that we use. We utilize them. It's out the door, massive mixing amounts. So the amount that you get to mix is a gallon. What they sell is a quart, and they quite often charge 9 to 12 times what we do because the processing, the extraction, and the retail
Yeah.
in between. So it's
Yeah.
extremely expensive for a lesser product.
Yeah. And the stuff I've seen is in a plastic, it's liquid. I can hear it when I shake it. It's liquid in a plastic bottle.
Right?
And that is, I don't love. So I like the idea of getting the herbs and then you making it yourself, which makes sense that you're going to make it fresh because it's going to be best fresh. And then, like you were talking about the fibers, I imagine also they're feeding the microbiome so that you're getting more health benefits that way as well.
Exactly.
Do you have any research, like some of the original research talking about the mechanism of action? Like how is it getting rid of cancer in people? And I imagine it's working on all kinds of
Well,
cancer.
yeah, it's across the board. There's some that have a more significant challenge, like brain cancer, because of the lack of blood flow.
Yeah.
But addressing that aspect is something that I kind of got the Reader's Digest version while working with Dr. Brusch. That I kind of linked generations of research because in 1994 there was a law that was passed that basically disincentivized you to do research called the Dietary Supplements Education Act of
Hmm.
1994, essentially detaching medicinal claims from supplements.
Hmm.
So what am I going to do now? But I was fortunate enough to know Dr. Brusch, again, President Kennedy's personal physician, a highly regarded doctor, not some French quack.
Hmm.
And he talked about the fact that this is something that takes the outer layer of interference, the inflow of toxins through the digestive tract, into the bloodstream is now you have this murky consistency within the bloodstream. Essentially, what happens is you have a tumor that would grow as a result of a toxin previously. Our ancestors would have micro tumors because they had micro amounts of toxins going
Yeah.
into their body. That tumor would send out basically a chemical signaling to the white blood cells as to its location. Hey, I'm here, come get me. And that was it because there wasn't a lot of toxic buildup that took place fairly efficiently to get rid of toxins. Now we have massive inflow of toxins because our ancestors never ate what we eat. And so whether it be chemicals, dyes, or whatever, you're getting a lot of buildup on the intestinal walls. When that goes in, it creates almost like a toxic sludge. And so now you have a small amount of toxic element. A tumor grows around it, which is just meant to be like a holding cell
Hmm.
that calls out to the white blood cells to come get me. But that holding cell, in this instance, before the chemical signaling gets complete to the white blood cells, another layer settles on top of it, essentially encasing it like an eggshell. Um, so now chemical signaling is inhibited to the point where even white blood cells right in the location can't get the signaling from a tumor right next to it. And it's also stimulating a higher degree of growth because that toxic element in itself stimulates more growth. So it just keeps growing and blocking signaling. So essentially what you get with Essiac is over the course of 4.5 months to 6 months, unlike other really acute attempts to clean the digestive tract, which is what you'll see with a lot of these detoxes. You can only take them for a week or two, and they are dramatic. You'll go to the bathroom, 20 times a day and go, this is the best stuff ever. But you're not realizing the bulk amount of buildup on your intestinal walls is easily accessible. It can be gotten rid of by so many different types of detoxes. I always say it's comparable to burning your eggs when you scramble them, you can get the majority with the spatula. But if you want a totally clean pan, and again, you want a totally clean intestinal tract, until it's totally clean, it can't process. So if you want a totally clean pan, even though you can get most of the eggs out instantly, that last layer is the toughest. You have to soak it, get your steel wool, scrub it several times. That's the resistant layer. So you don't get cleanliness, you don't get a clean pan until you get there. You don't get cleanliness of the intestinal walls until you finish off the process. So these harsh ones are so dramatically bad over a relatively short period of time. They cause dehydration, headaches, Herx reactions. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't sustain them. So all you've done now is gotten rid of the bulk and you've left that stuck on thin layer. Essiac is different. You may have some initial diarrhea or bloating, but nothing like that. You just kind of sustain through that with minimal discomfort for a couple of days, maybe going to the bathroom more frequently. So it's comparable to the other ones, much less frequent, but it's the long game because that potential for diarrhea that about 25% of people have, it isn't diarrhea that's based on any sort of negative aspect like a virus. It's actually productive in cleaning out your body. So it's not considered a side effect. It's a desired effect to produce benefit. That goes away after a couple of days. And again, only about 25% of people have that. Then what you'd have is this 3 times a day introduction of moderate amounts of soothing herbs that increase motility in the digestive tract, soothe any sort of ulcerative aspect in the digestive tract, get rid of any sort of buildup in the digestive tract that's stuck on that last layer. But again, that last layer is so, just like the pan, so resistant. It takes about 4.5 months to continue through a moderate detox like Essiac to finally complete the process. Now, when you've completed that process, you're making new blood simultaneous to the point that you're cleaning out your intestinal walls. Eventually, that river runs clean. So what happens now? Well, that layer that's on top of the tumor essentially dissipates over time in clean blood. And the beauty of that is that outer layer is a toxic element that produces something similar to hydrogen peroxide. And so there's like a microenvironment, a haze of this stuff around the tumor. And that's the very element that the defense cells of the tumor grow in. So the defense cells live in that waste. If you get rid of the waste, they dissipate, die off over time. So now what you have at the end of the process is a clean digestive tract, which is absorbing all nutrients to enhance the strength of the patient. Also, all that murky stuff in the bloodstream isn't interfering with the access to the tumor because it has to basically fight the toxins just to get to the tumor, which depletes the white blood cells just because they're already doing battle to get to the tumor. Now that there's no battle being done, it's smooth access, smooth reading of the chemical signaling, and direct access because the defense cells have died off. So your body's doing what it's naturally God-given design of the body is to preserve life. But
Mm-hmm.
in our generation, we aren't aware. We're aware of the miracle of the creation of life. We don't deny that.
Mm-hmm.
It's God-given, and yet we don't realize that same preservation is really built into us, but we haven't been able to tap into it because we've been so toxic. We just assume we're riddled with things, and these things, the natural immune response can't work because it's just not that powerful. When actually it's the most powerful healer when given a chance, when all of the interference is cleared out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Okay. So more of a detox tea kind of is what it is.
It
It's
is, but
it's
it's detox to a completion like nothing else. Detox teas are a dime a dozen. Detox teas that actually, you know,
yeah.
it's like if you're going to take your air conditioning filter and it's got, 2 inches of dust on it. We have to clean it all the way off. It doesn't matter if you clean off and there's a quarter of inch of dust on it. It's still compromising airflow.
Mm-hmm.
This completes the process. So many of those are comparable to that quarter inch of dust. It leaves a large amount still on the intestinal walls for waste product to get caught, for digestive nutrients to be compromised because it's got to get clean.
Yeah, yeah, that makes
Because,
sense.
because Essiac is such a prolonged process and a moderate cleanser, it can be sustained every day, which allows you to complete the process.
I love that because I don't generally recommend people detox until they're relatively healthy because so many of them are so intense and it
Yes.
can create problems. Like it just
Yes.
can make things worse.
It can cascade into worse issues.
Yes, toxins can redistribute if you're not pooping regularly. So I really like that this is moderate and gentle and allows your body to heal. Because really, I always tell people because I deal with a lot of autoimmune disease, and I'm like, it's your body is every day just trying to keep you alive. And sometimes the things that it does to keep you alive end up hurting you in the long run.
Yes, and
So,
that's it. Autoimmune. My wife was diagnosed with lupus,
oh,
and
yeah.
so what we found is again, I've kind of linked two generations of research together because a research person called me from South America out of the blue and asked for a sample for research at the biggest laboratory in South
Oh,
America.
wow.
Sent it, and that's where the next generation I'm kind of sandwiched between two generations. And what they found about this research was astounding. Essentially, what you're finding is a massive problem with the buildup of waste in the body, just to
Mm-hmm.
put it simply. And what that does is creates an inflow into the bloodstream, and there's all sorts of things like trying to remember what he said, but like that trigger the immune response, like liposaccharides and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that have uh, an effect on the immune response. And when they're out of balance, essentially, they can create all sorts of autoimmune response, which is triggered to a higher degree than they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
What this does is gets rid of that out of balance aspects because the toxins are gone, and these toxins really trigger into the bloodstream. They wreak havoc on all the organs. Everything from you name it, because the blood flows to every organ and the skin. And you can see, that the function of the thyroid, for example, the function of the liver, the pancreas, they're essential in balancing blood sugar. So you see
Mm-hmm.
that happening. You see skin tone change. You see all this happen as a result of getting rid of the very things that are basically manifesting on the walls of the digestive tract and inflowing into the bloodstream and flowing to the different areas to compromise your health, and also creating a very heightened response in the case of autoimmune because they have compromised the very things that are supposed to be regulated to moderate degrees, and they've overloaded with these, liposaccharides. And so this is essentially like an antioxidant that helps to also take some of the damage and repair that. And it's a good way of reducing some of the damage done by the bacterial overgrowth in the lower intestine. So intestinal health is everything. Gut
Mm-hmm.
health.
Yeah, it really is. So is this something that you would recommend somebody drinks, maybe not daily, but just as a preventative so that maybe you're making sure that you're cleaning things out and keeping things working well? Or is it just for, oh, wait, I have been diagnosed with cancer, I should start drinking this tea? What is
Oh,
the thought on
everybody should take it. Literally, and that sounds like a sales pitch. If it
that?
weren't true, but everyone should take it. See, what this does is what we say it does, and that's why we've had a money back guarantee in spite of the challenges that I mean, we're facing the most significant health challenges there are.
Oh,
These
man.
are the ones that have stumped mankind, and yet we have money back guarantees after 6 months. If you don't see the improvement when taken as directed, no questions asked, you get your money back.
Hmm. Love
And
that.
so you consider what we're dealing with, and I think you're aware of some of the illnesses and health challenges.
Hmm.
It's unheard of. So how have we done it for 20 years? It's the byproduct of telling the truth and being accountable. And what people think, well, there must be a loophole to that. I'm like, trust me, if there were a loophole, someone else would do it.
Hmm.
There isn't. It's actually accountability. We do give refunds. It doesn't always work. It's got a high degree of success, but not absolute.
Right, right. It's not something you can, I always tell people you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet, and this too. Like Do you find people are making sustainable changes in addition to
Well,
drinking the tea, or
I'll give you an example. Just the variations are amazing of
I'm
the way
sure.
people use. To put this all in one box, but essentially to answer your first question, everyone has enough digestive buildup that they should consider, not necessarily have to, doing a 6 month protocol of the aggressive 3 times a day. Because
Okay.
that's really the one thing that ensures that you're going to address a lifetime of contamination in your digestive tract to completion. After that, we're not here to scare you into taking it every day. Essentially, that's like, having spring cleaning and house cleaners come to your house, doing everything. And by the time you clean and everything's spotless, you don't call them the next day. So you could take time off. You could take X amount of time off because the accumulation of dust on your counters is similar to accumulation of waste in your intestines. You've done such a good job if you go 6 months aggressively. Even if you have no illness, you'll see the difference in energy levels
I
overall.
bet. I can just
Um,
imagine.
some people aren't as invested to do that, so they'll do a more moderate approach of twice a day, which is going to achieve less results. But they want to kind of dabble with it and see if they can get some benefit. But really, this has been shown to do remarkable things for illness. Our most recent generation of human studies that was released in 2022 in Santiago, Chile, and it had to do with DNA repair. And
Wow.
yeah, it was remarkable. They took X-ray technicians who had exposure to low dose radiation over the course of many years. They gave them Essiac tea as the only means of addressing it. They didn't even give the full dosage. And at the end of the 6 month study, they had between a 33 to 50% reduction in damage to their DNA, which means essentially repairing the body. So even if you're dabbling at a lesser amount, the amount of DNA repair may not complete the intestinal cleanse aspect, but the DNA repair was found to be effective even at lower twice a day amounts.
Hmm.
So we've had people have extraordinarily strange things happen. Moles fall off of their face, their back, bald spots grow in, and hair grow back from gray to grow back to its original brown color. It happened to my dad when he started to take it. Went from gray to this kind of a lighter
Oh,
brown, a bit lighter than normal. And about 80% of his bald spot grew in.
that's
And
enough to get
yeah,
me to try it because I do not, I'm getting some gray hairs and I just am
yeah,
not happy about it.
yeah, they called him Benjamin Button because he kept going on.
That's
He had
amazing.
lung cancer. Yeah. So I don't take really that good a call. People think I'm an earthy crunchy. I don't take great care of myself. And like I said, there are varying degrees on the spectrum that people are absolutely, they're vegan or something, and other people eat junk food. I'm somewhere near the I do okay
Hmm.
spectrum. And so I I I spend a lot of time at the beach, a lot of time in the sun without sun protection, and
Well,
I
I'm
eat things
wholeheartedly
that I
for
shouldn't.
that.
But I honestly think this is something, I'm 60 years old. I think it's been able to offset some of the damage that I've experienced.
Oh yeah, I would say so because you don't look 60.
Yeah, so thank you, but that's what the doctor says. I would expect you to look younger, is what he told me.
Oh.
What we found, so that was the thing. He's like, I really believe that's it because I've seen you eat and I haven't been that impressed. He said. So that was it.
Do you have any stories of people like there's this new surge of turbo cancers that have happened over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Have you heard any stories of people taking it post injection and risk of turbo cancer type of
Uh,
situation?
yeah, we get everything. Yes, everything. It's equal opportunity.
Love
Uh,
it.
yeah, we're seeing about the same consistency, still the same mechanism. Cancer's cancer. The origin may be different, but the end result is it becomes what it becomes.
Hmm.
And the way of addressing what it is in that state is still the same. So
Okay.
there is variation in results as to cause or origin of it. It's really
Okay.
across the board. Yeah.
I love it. And so are people doing, is it just you're making an 8 ounce cup? Are you boiling 3 weeks worth and then you're drinking
Uh,
it cold, hot? Does it taste like crap? I'm
yes.
curious because I'll do just about
Here's the
anything.
details.
I'll do just
Okay.
about anything. I'm a really good
Okay.
patient because I want to feel my
It's
best. I don't love fish, so I don't eat fish. I take fish oil, but I will eat or drink almost anything.
okay. Well, the first thing you have to do is bang your head against the wall 3 times. I'm kidding. I'm trying to make it comparable to that much better. What you have to do, bad joke, is you have to you boil a gallon at a time using 4 ounces of these dry herbs.
Okay.
And so what you have then is a gallon of tea with the sediment settled at the bottom. Now, you have to distribute the herbs evenly. It's much better to stir vigorously. Gravity still has some impact, so it'll always be a little bit more thickened on the bottom. But
Okay.
that's why we have in the instructions how to dilute it after you pour out your dose. You can use water or natural fruit and vegetable juice. A lot of people like lemonade, for example.
Mm,
They put it in there. It does fine with lemonade, diluted a little bit. And of course, the end result is you're drinking it 3 times a day, 3 ounces per dose. So each gallon lasts for 2 weeks. And so you're doing that with the option of diluting it with fruit juice to make it taste better, stirring it vigorously to make that thick content kind of distributed through each dose as best as possible. But again, if you look at it in terms of the historical aspect, yeah, this is exactly what they did in the 1700s, 1600s. This is an old Ojibwe Indian
mm-hmm.
recipe. And it's kind of like, if you're still just eating an organic carrot, it hasn't been improved upon.
Mm-hmm.
This is the original way it was done. And literally, you cannot do an extract or a version without powder. You drink it cold. And I'll tell you why you drink it cold is because the initial extraction is the 10 minutes of boiling starts the process, which lasts for 12 more hours. It continues to seep into the water. After that, after 12 hours, you've steeped it for enough time for it to reach its full potential. Now, being a perishable product, put it in the refrigerator to preserve the compounds. If you reheat it a second time, you've essentially overprocessed this and damaged the compounds that were
Okay.
initially extracted. So
Okay.
what people have done is try to make versions of this where they try to sell it again, marketing. Another form of differentiation is one. The other is to normalize it to a degree where, while it's tea, then why don't we try to mimic the tea drinking process? We drink it hot, we extract out the herbs. Okay, so what they do, extract out the herbs. Bad ideas, we've already discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking a hut, overprocess it. It takes the medicinal compounds and essentially kills the ones that were initially extracted because too much, the second round of introduction of heat actually kills them. So now you're getting this watered down version of it without the fiber aspect and a reduced medicinal compound, and you're like, oh yum, this is delicious, and that's how they can sell. So it's about marketing. The Ojibwe Indians said that this would be compromised by the so-called white man for
Like everything else.
commercial reasons, and and it's amazing. So the reason we, have kind of overcome all that promotional and everything else like that to become as successful as far as volume is the only thing is you can't out promote a successful company. So they can promote, they can say, talk about capsules, they can do whatever they want. We keep seeing success and expansion.
Yeah.
So what's happened here is every attempt to sell a capsule or a clean drinking tea has been met with disappointment, quite often death. And so that, leads just a trail that goes nowhere. We want to have something that actually works. And the tragedy here isn't that it's unbelievable that something can work. The tragedy is this would be like comparable if I didn't share that, willow tree bark, which is aspirin. If I didn't share that simple thing and it's now the year 2025 and say, you're not going to believe this, but this can help heal a headache, they'd think it's a miracle. But
Mm-hmm.
it's actually because someone came forward at the appropriate time and disclosed it when it was supposed to. But this was never disclosed for reasons, like I said, a Canadian vote which said it couldn't be used as a means of treatment. Certain other people that have uh, interest against it being,
Hmm.
but again, you won't see them giving their money back if it doesn't work. You won't see
Hmm.
them doing what we do and helping to that degree. We do that again per the directive of Dr. Brusch because he had already done 8 years of research and he knew the advanced formula versus the original formula was so markedly better. The original one was doing a lot of good, but there was room for improvement. And by the time he got to the second round of research, he said, "This is so good, you can actually stand behind this." And so
I
he
love
was right.
that.
He
It
was
kind
right.
of reminds me of, a lot over the last 5 years, a lot of people have said the science is settled, on a lot of things. And that's like, if you believe in science at all, you know that that's never the case. So to put that, like with the herbs, well, you know what? Sometimes we learn about new things and we can add that to a formula and make it better. And that sounds like kind of what is happening here.
Yeah, well, what's happened is, I mean, if you look at today's latest thing where the FDA took the warning off of estrogen
Yeah, I
supplements.
saw that.
Yeah, I've known about this for decades. I've known about the study that did it. It
Yeah,
was
the Women's Health Initiative.
statistically insignificant. It actually had the subgroup that only had estrogen showed a decrease in breast cancer
Yeah,
incidence.
yeah.
It decreased. So somehow the interpretation of other aspects of the study with other types of medications involved showed a statistics like 0.01% increase of something using another drug. So what they've done is they put the estrogen into the mix that this study failed, even though independent of the other drugs it was successful, put out this big warning thing about the estrogen. Now online, something that we have that treats with estrogen basically treats it has a potential concern with estrogen, but they don't realize at medicinal levels, red clover has natural hormone blockers for estrogen sensitive cancer. So they don't take this study. They know about the study.
Well,
These
there's
people,
no money in it.
right? So they fearmonger that you shouldn't take this because it could cause an estrogen spike, blah blah blah. And they don't look at the history in which that's not going to be a harmful event. And
Hmm.
B, it actually takes the estrogen regardless and blocks the receptors of estrogen to the cancer cells. And it's a natural hormone blocker with no side effects.
Wow.
So I was going to write a post today online regarding this because we've been going hard against this for 2 decades online. And
I bet.
finally, today's the day of enlightenment that the whole time it was just misinformation.
Hmm.
So thank God.
Yeah, I always tell people, there's so much bad information on the internet. There's so many
Yeah.
people trying to sell you their products and telling you that everybody needs them or their program is the best because it worked for them. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Well, that's, I got to do the overriding theme here of the guarantee because the percentage of success is really what you're dealing with the product. So if I deal with 1 million customers and 5% get well, you could pretty much assure yourself I can get some of them to speak on camera
Yeah.
about survive, but it's a 5%. And then you have, varying degrees going upwards. So we did the
Yeah.
guarantee as a result of my brother having ALS. I had an identical twin brother who had ALS, and he broke down in tears one day when his wife, the stress between him and his wife financially, um, was partially due to these alternative practitioners who are also capable of taking advantage of those
Yes.
who are vulnerable. And we spent $30,000 on something that left us with no hope, no benefit. And he was crying. He said he knew because my dad was treated with the Essiac. He had lung cancer, lived another 8 years cancer free. He's like, you should let people know that that can't happen here. That you cannot have lack of success and still pay for it. And that was just what spurred it. Literally, in this moment of desperation for my brother, we kind of connected that to the desperation of our customers. And so we did that. Right after that, we put it on the website. made sure that that was front and center, that, you could see the fact that we are going to do this. And the reason we did that wasn't just, there's no accountability. So it shows it's not a 5% success rate, because at 5%, we're giving away all of our, but it shows it's not 50%, because at 50%, we're still giving away tremendous. At 70%, we're still giving away tremendous amounts. You have to approach a little over 90% success rate after 6 months to start going, okay, this is something we can absorb, tell the truth, honor the people that it doesn't work, not take their money, and continue to go forward with it being self-evident. If you look at it objectively, this has to be a pretty darn high rate for us to stand behind it,
Yeah, yeah.
particularly because no one else ever has. So
Well,
the fact of the matter is that's how it's over 90% of the time that this succeeds.
and you wouldn't be in business after 20 years if it didn't
Yeah, well,
work.
I started in 1986. It was online, but yeah, I've been doing this since 1986. So coming up,
Oh yeah, longer than that, for almost
yeah,
40 years.
almost 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been my whole adult life. So
That's amazing. I love it. I was thinking too of when you were talking about the tea and the Ojibwe and how they, if they made it and it must have fermented in a way too. So I wonder if, I'm
yeah.
thinking about like mixing it with kombucha tea and fermenting it, and what would that do to it? Well, like, would that extract more out of it? Or
Well,
uh, do you know
interesting
anything about
concept.
that?
I don't. Honestly, I don't. But I was under the impression that it was a daily ritual, or every other day, because the perishability would be 2 days. So
Okay,
they
so
do it
they
like
were
every
maybe
other day. So
they were
the
making it every other
fermentation
day.
never came into it. I don't believe fermentation is something that is a good thing with Essiac tea. I think it reduces its overall effect.
Okay.
Kombucha and stuff has fermentation as an asset. This isn't one of those instances. So
Okay.
they would just keep making it fresh because, they didn't have 9 to 5 jobs, so to speak.
Right, right. Or
They
yeah.
were doing their life sustaining activity every day, hunting
Yeah,
this.
yeah, that makes sense. And everybody was probably drinking it, not just one person. That's why
Right,
we would drink it and have it for 2 weeks. They were using it
right.
up. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about any more success stories? Any good, really good examples? I'm sure
I
you have a
mean,
million of them.
it's like, I mean,
Some of your favorites?
well, I've got a guy, Paul. He's 94 now. He called me 20 something, 24 years ago. Stage 4 cancer. Uh, and he's a very matter of fact, cut and dry guy. He's like, well, he's on my website. You'll see his testimonial. Well, I just decided not to do it. No, with Essiac, and he's 24 years cancer free. I got a guy. I have a woman back in 1992 that had blotches on her back that looked like she had been splattered by mud from like a passing by car because of all the moles. They completely fell off. We've had people have
That's crazy.
vaginal discharge of tumors. We've had
Oh
uh,
my
a woman
God.
a woman who's a nurse. Her son spit up a tumor. They biopsied it. It was a benign tumor that had been malignant. I have a woman right now. Strange story. My twin brother worked on a campaign for the mayor, and
Mm-hmm.
working for the mayor as a volunteer after he got ALS to keep him occupied. I got a call from his opponent. The woman called me up, and so we're on opposite sides of this big heated, contested thing. And halfway through the conversation, talking about her her husband who had I think it was liver cancer. She's like, "Is this Brian?" I'm like, "Allison?" Like, oh, so we started laughing. Long story short, long story short, she lost the thing, but we kept in track of each other. I went over the house, talked to her husband, who was very reserved, seemed to be skeptical. I'm like, there's no way he's going to take this. I'm the opponent, of the wife, and this sounds like like a witch doctor. Well, he took it, and I explained the process of how this basically doesn't immediately do it. Sometimes the momentum goes away from you the first few months because, like a headache, doesn't initially stop a headache once you take the aspirin. It could get worse before it get time to get into your body. So I said, you may find some expansion initially, but eventually you'll find the shrinking and becoming benign and dissipating and dissolving. And so Allison called me up like 5 months later. She said, we decided to do surgery at that because the time frame we had previously seen expansion and it was a lot of pressure. And so when she called me up after the surgery, she's like, Bryan, you're not going to believe what happened. They found this little small benign tumor, which they just plucked out easily instead of being intertwined through the organs. It was exactly what you said. And Alec is still here. He's 82 years old now.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and so just to have these personal things going from political opponents to I go visit Allison like every 6 weeks now and bring her, Essiac for her family, gotten to know family. So it makes you realize some of this political divide is really just
Yeah, we
it's stupid.
yeah, we all have more in common than
Yes, we do.
not.
And she's a
Yeah.
wonderful woman. Just happened to run against my friend. And
Love it. I love
that's
it.
it.
So what about parasites are a huge thing on the internet now, and I tell people,
Oh, yeah.
again, don't waste your money on, because everybody's telling you need a parasite cleanse, and some of them are
Oh,
really, really
Essiac has
expensive.
anti-parasitic.
Okay.
If you want, okay, I think it's a Turkish rhubarb. I'm not sure. There's one of them that is anti-parasitic.
Okay.
In particular, very strong. But this is the graphic aspect. We have a website, excuse me, a group on Facebook called Genuine Essiac Users.
Okay.
And on there, oh God, the descriptions of what have come out of people, and then the thread below is just, it's like you got to have a strong stomach for what they've seen.
Right, I'm
The
sure.
post. So we have these multiple posts. So if you go on the search and you look for parasites, you'll see them on the Facebook site if you want to go on there. But yeah, we actually have people that a little bit too much to present, but they take photographs.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're like, yeah, sorry, that's not going to cut it here. But
Yeah.
it's pretty compelling what you see this do as far as parasites. It is a natural parasite killer to a degree like nothing else.
I think it's important to have options because there's a company um, that sells a lot of parasite cleanses through muscle testing. And just my cost for one phase of it is like $150. So you double that for the consumer. It's like, so they're going to spend upwards of $900 to do a parasite cleanse over 6 months. And I'm just like, that's just out of reach for a lot of people. And that's insane. And it's
Oh
like
my
12
goodness.
pills a day. It's just, it's horrible. So I've like, decided against using them. And
Okay,
then,
let me tell you this much, and that's what I want to strike at here. Herbs, as a general rule of thumb, are a lot of people are ignorant it's to the actual cost or what these contents are, and there's a lot of opportunity to make a lot of money. I
mm-hmm,
mean, when we decided to keep our prices the way they were, I could have had prices 7 times as high as I'm charging now and still been, the great guy that reduced the price,
mm-hmm,
going down to like literally 8 to 10%. Uh, there are very good people working in the alternative world and very corrupt people.
mm-hmm,
And the problem is sometimes the truth and the lies don't appear to be the same because the first thing you see, I think they call it first print history, where the first person that makes the accusation is the one that the mind says must be right because they discovered
mm-hmm,
this, they want to defend their ego. And then the second person who's now backpedaling, who's telling the truth, is looked at as some sort of demon. So
mm-hmm.
I've had to absorb a ton of just bad energy and a lot of hits to the gut in the initial stages, but stay on, stay patient, stay educated, and they will see the fact that, yeah, these herbs are not only less expensive than what you're purchasing elsewhere, but they're much more effective. So they appreciate that it's not a reflection of quality to take care of the customer's pricing. It is just a matter of,
Yeah,
you know,
it's like I would equate you to like the owner of the Arizona Tea Company who says,
yes,
I
yeah, I
have
know
enough
exactly.
money. Yeah, I don't have
Yeah,
to raise my prices. I have
I
enough
saw
money.
that.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing here. What am I gonna do? We drive a 2018 Nissan Versa, which is funny because it was used as a punchline in a joke in the bleachers at a gymnastics meet my wife was at as like the worst car. It's like, why that? And we drive it because we love it. It's been a financially stable business, but not by any means like extravagant amounts of money, but it's been enough to be successful. But we're pretty simple people. We live in like my house ends right there. There's just two of us. Don't need empty rooms. Uh, and that's it. This give me everything I need, all the security I need. It's been
Yeah.
a wonderful thing for a guy that's basically lazy and a beach bum, but
You got
talks too
the
much.
the perfect job then.
I talk too much. I talk too much,
I love
and,
it.
you know that's it. I got the perfect job.
Is there anything else you want to say about the tea that we didn't cover? Because I really knew nothing about it. I think I'm gonna give it a try though, because I don't like to have my clients do stuff that I haven't really tried myself first, because I like to tell them about it. So,
Yeah. When it comes to this, there's a particular unifying fact. I mean, everything extends through digestive health. And if you could clean that, everything basically that progresses from there, which is the bloodstream,
hmm.
which is then organ function, which is then skin, which is energy absorption. This is unlike other detoxes because it completes the process over time. So it's a patient process, unlike what people are used to. They want a pill. Three
Hmm.
times a day is a pain in the butt. But if you want to really heal, you do this. I should also tell you another thing about the effectiveness of this because if it didn't work, no one would ever take it three times a day. No one would ever
Hmm.
inconvenience themselves with something that doesn't taste good. So why are they still taking an inconvenient thing three times a day? Because when you take this, you feel the difference. You feel the energy levels and you feel the function. You see the test scores with the CA 125s going down, the tumors are shrinking. But not only that, the function of the thyroid being something that can be compromised by toxins,
Hmm.
hypothyroidism. You see an immune response regulated because you're not having things skewed out of control by that toxic element going in from the bacterial, the gram-negative bacteria going in and affecting the liposaccharides and everything that it's like a cascade. So you will find, like I said, diabetes, much better function with the liver and pancreas not being functional. You'll find arthritis without the joints,
Hmm.
deposits of toxins in joints cause stiffness.
Yep.
See all sorts of things that you wouldn't not necessarily relate to it until you realize the deposit and compromise of toxins creates a cascade of problems. So that's it. Worth doing for general health, worth doing for specific health. It's literally for anyone.
I
And
love it.
the DNA repair is where the evidence finally is. Even if you've got nothing wrong, it helps with DNA repair.
I love it. Do you have those studies up on your website or?
Oh, Lionel is the man that does it. He's an administrator in the Genuine Essiac users group on Facebook.
Okay. I'm
Post
not
it.
on Facebook, so I won't
Yeah.
be able to see that. But
Yeah, I can get in touch with that, see if I can find that. Because yes, he
yeah, I'd
does
love to
have.
look at it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a Facebook group, Genuine Essiac users.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and then your website is genuineessiac.com.
That's correct. Yes,
Let's
but be
spell
careful
Essiac.
which Essiac. It's the name Case, French name Case, which is Caisse, spelled backwards. So it's Essiac. Another forewarning, if you do go on my group, be aware there are many other groups out there that are being created by people that have no history, no legitimate Essiac,
Yeah.
who are into the fear mongering aspect. So we provide proof with supportive studies, facts, information. What you'll find out there is a fear campaign that borders on ridiculous, but as strange as it may seem, some people it resonates. Just hear some
Mm-hmm.
over the top. So
Well,
be
fear,
careful which
yeah,
group you choose.
fear is very influential in,
Well, it stops thought processing
yeah,
in,
yeah,
in a flea response. So if you could put fear against my product, for example, you can get a flea away from it um, with zero regard to sitting and listening. So some
yeah,
of these groups that you'll see on Facebook are designed to do just that, and there's no regulation, so it's like the Wild West. And the confusion, the sad thing is, who do you believe? And in spite of our reassurance, our provision of facts versus fear, our basic, giving it to those who are underprivileged,
mm-hmm,
we walk the walk. Fear still trumps the ability to look at that.
mm-hmm.
So I have to sit down with them and just say, "Whew, think about this." I show them this, and we have to take the time to methodically introduce them after calming them down. But it's a process. I didn't know I could handle at first. Now I'm comfortable there because I know I connect with the fear. I've been fearful myself, and I know what
Mm-hmm.
they do. So yeah, that's what we
Well,
do.
I don't think there's anything scarier than somebody telling you you have cancer because, we've been bombarded with that our whole lives in media and, doctors' offices, and then the oncologists being like, well, this is the only way. And then so then you think, well, is it the only way? Or, should I, what if this happened with my friend? She got diagnosed with breast cancer, like very stage 1, but she was afraid to do anything alternative because she has a young child. And she said, what if I made the wrong choice? And I didn't do it because we've been told,
Of of course,
and so she went the conventional route, and now she's suffering because she's on tamoxifen and she's miserable. And
yeah.
I gave her she was one of those people I gave that information to, and I'm like, you know what? This is your body. You got to decide what's right for you. I'm not invested in how you take care of yourself. So she didn't feel, she felt guilty not doing some of these alternative therapies that people told her about because
Oh,
she didn't want him to be mad at her. And I was like,
but
I feel
here's the
so
thing:
bad.
it's not an either or. Essiac, people who take Essiac using conventional treatments
Okay.
do better. The antioxidant, another thing that is like we talked about the estrogen, there's a study that did a sum total of studies on antioxidants, and there was at one point that you should avoid antioxidants or chemotherapy. They could be negative. Well, inevitably, they decided to do one uniform, like, summary of all the studies over decades. And in this summary, they found that antioxidants increased the overall health and life expectancy of every of the people in the study. And it was an astounding amount that this was evident. So the misinformation against antioxidants. So some people would say, "Well, I heard we shouldn't take antioxidants," which this has, and new science is actually finding just the opposite. The antioxidants are the key to really helping reduce free radicals to help improve your health. They have zero negative aspects. So you could take this with anything. You could take this with chemo, with radiation. There is no downside. So if you're worried about that choice, there is no choice to make.
That's
It
good
is,
to know.
it's use both.
That's good to know. Okay, so anything else you want to say? Because
Uh, that's it. I really think
okay,
that, yeah, I think that's hit all the marks. Go on my website if you have any questions. Utilize the both on my website and on our users group, the little magnifying glass to search different
search
areas.
things. Okay,
And feel free to, when you go to there, right on the right-hand side, you'll see something that says video testimonials. There's like 18 of them that we just happen to have that are all essentially Essiac without any other treatment.
love it.
Uh,
And I will say for people, if you're curious about video testimonials, people generally aren't motivated to do them unless they are really excited about
oh
what they're
my
talking about.
God. Honestly, it's like pulling teeth to get people to do things. And I don't mean to be cruel, but it takes a lot to get someone from excitement to doing. I think doing is just something that I don't know. Something gets
It's
lost.
yeah, if they don't do it in the moment, it very rarely gets done.
That's exactly right. The enthusiasm
Yeah,
kind of wanes, and well-intentioned people, like, I'll get to it later. But the fact is, we also have a bunch of testimonials in an independent section. If you go to the testimonials, which have different aspects of treatment also included, whether it be conventional or other alternative treatments or immunotherapy. So it covers the whole gamut. You're going to see everything there so you can make your educated decision and see someone that's been in your situation. You can hear some of the things they've done and kind of draw your own conclusion of what you want to do.
Love it. Okay. So genuineessiac.com is the place to go.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Can't thank you enough. I appreciate it.